In the world of luxury real estate, perception isn't just important, it's the only currency that matters. I've spent 12 years perfecting my brand. I am Elena Vance, the woman who closes the deals no one else can touch. I don't just sell houses, I sell a version of life that looks like a filtered Instagram post. My hair is never out of place, my heels never click too loudly on Italian marble, and my marriage was the ultimate closing gift. David was my anchor. That's how I described him to my colleagues. He was a senior software architect, brilliant, quiet, and perfectly content to stay in the shadows while I basked in the spotlight. He was the man who made sure the house was warm, the bills were paid, and the background of my life remained stable so I could fly. I viewed him as a piece of high-quality furniture, reliable, sturdy, and easy to ignore. Then I met Caleb. Caleb didn't want an anchor. He wanted a storm. He was a developer who moved through the city like he owned the air itself. We met during a walkthrough of a $7 million penthouse in the Arts District. The air conditioning was out, the heat was stifling, and within 10 minutes, we weren't talking about square footage anymore. For the next year, I became a ghost. I used my profession as the perfect camouflage. An evening showing was a code for 3 hours at a boutique hotel. A weekend networking retreat was a flight to Miami with Caleb. I was meticulous. I didn't use our joint accounts. I bought a second phone that I kept in a magnetic box under the driver's seat of my Range Rover. But my masterpiece was the app. Caleb introduced me to Vanish, an encrypted messaging platform that supposedly wiped data from both devices the moment a conversation ended. No logs, no backups, no trail. I felt like a spy. I felt invincible. I would sit at the dinner table with David, smiling over my wine, while under the table I was sending Caleb photos that would have ended my career in an instant. I looked at David's kind, tired face and felt a surge of pity. He was a man who lived in code and logic. He didn't understand the fire I was playing with. As the annual Agent of the Year gala approached, the tension in my double life reached a fever pitch. This wasn't just any award. It was the coronation. The winner gets the cover of Luxury Living magazine and a seat on the board of the region's largest firm. I had shattered every sales record. I had moved $140 million in inventory in 12 months. I was the golden girl. The week before the gala, David started acting different. Not suspicious, just focused. He spent late nights in his home office, the blue light of his monitors reflecting in his glasses. "What are you working on, honey?" I asked, leaning in the doorway. "Just a legacy project," he said, not looking up. "Something to ensure everything is documented correctly before the end of the quarter. It's all about the backup, Elena. If you don't have a backup, you have nothing." I laughed. "Spoken like a true tech nerd. Don't work too hard. I need you sharp for the gala." "Oh, I'll be sharp," he said. He looked at me then, and for a split second, his eyes looked as cold as a server room. "I'm making sure the presentation is perfect." The night of the gala, the grand ballroom was a sea of black ties and silk gowns. 500 people, my peers, my rivals, and my most prestigious clients, were packed into the room. David sat beside me at the head table. He was unusually quiet, his hand resting on a small black device that looked like a high-end remote. "You're shaking," he whispered. "It's just the nerves," I said, adjusting my diamond necklace. "This is the night everything changes." "You have no idea," David replied. The ceremony began. The appetizers were cleared, the wine was poured, and finally, my boss, Julian Thorne, stepped to the podium. "This year," Julian began, his voice booming through the hall. "One agent didn't just meet the standard, she defined it. Elena Vance has shown us all what it means to be dedicated to the close. But before we present her with the trophy, we have a special addition to the evening." Her husband, David, reached out to us with a digital tribute he's been working on for months. He called it the true cost of a deal. A wave of warmth washed over me. I thought David had put together a montage of my late nights and my sacrifices. I felt a sudden rush of affection for him. He really did care. I stood up as the lights dimmed. I walked toward the stage, the spotlight following my every move. I reached the podium and looked out at the sea of faces. I looked back at the 40-foot LED screen behind me, expecting to see a photo of our wedding or my first big sale. The screen flickered. A line of code ran down the left side. David's signature. Then a window opened. It was a screen recording. My heart stopped. I recognized the interface immediately. It was Vanish, the untraceable app. The first message popped up in giant, crisp letters. David thinks I'm at an open house. Meet me at the Shoreline property in 20. I want to use the master suite. The room went silent. Not a polite silence, but a vacuum of horror. I turned around, my mouth hanging open, watching my own life be dissected in front of everyone who mattered. The screen began to scroll faster. Photos I had taken, reckless, private photos in homes I was supposed to be representing, flashed across the 40-foot screen. Then the audio kicked in. David hadn't just mirrored my phone. He had used the smart home systems in the properties I managed. He'd hacked the very security systems I told my clients were impenetrable. The speakers filled with the sound of my laughter. "He's so pathetic, Caleb." My voice echoed, distorted and cruel. "He just sits there in his office while I'm out here living. He's not a man. He's a calculator. He'll never find out. He doesn't have the guts to look." I tried to speak, but no sound came out. I looked at Julian, my boss. His face was a mask of pure fury. I looked at my clients, the people who trusted me with their keys and their privacy. They were looking at me like I was a cockroach. I looked down at table 1. David was standing up. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't crying. He held the small black device in his hand, the remote for the server he'd built just to destroy me. He'd written a script that bypassed the Vanish encryption by capturing the screen data before it could be deleted. He had spent 6 months building a digital cage, and I had walked right into it. "The tribute is over," David said into the silence. His voice wasn't amplified, but in that quiet room, it sounded like thunder. "I've already sent the full logs to the ethics committee and the board of realtors. And Julian? You might want to check the security logs for the Arts District penthouse. There's a cleaning bill Elena forgot to mention." David turned and walked out of the ballroom. He didn't look back. He didn't wait for my explanation. He had closed the only deal that mattered. The fallout was instantaneous. By the time I was escorted out of the building by security, the Agent of the Year trophy had been awarded to my biggest rival. My phone was blowing up with termination notices and cease and desist orders from clients whose homes I had desecrated. When I finally made it back to the house, the anchor was gone. The house was empty, except for a single laptop sitting on the kitchen island. I opened it. There was one file on the desktop titled, "The Final Close." It was a spreadsheet. David had calculated every dollar I had spent on Caleb, every hour I had lied about, and every cent of the commission I had earned during the affair. He had used his access to our accounts to move exactly that amount, down to the penny, into a separate legal fund for his divorce lawyer. I sat on the floor of my perfect kitchen, surrounded by the silence of a life that had been sold out from under me. I thought I was the one who knew how to read a contract. I thought I was the one who knew how to spot a hidden flaw. But I had missed the most important thing. You never, ever try to outcode the man who built the system.